And in 5.3, we are adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So let's start with adding and subtracting. So with adding or subtracting, make sure you watch which operation you are performing with. But in number 1 here, we are adding. So when you're adding, nothing changes within your polynomials. So if you wanted to, you could just rewrite this exactly how it is originally written. Okay, most of you guys aren't going to do this step because you'll find the process far too easy. So when you're adding or subtracting polynomials, you are just combining like terms. So I'm going to take all my x cubed values, add them together, my x squared values, add them together. I have only one x value, and then I have two constants. So you're just combining your like terms for this. Okay, remember when you're combining like terms, you're just adding or subtracting your coefficients. So 2x cubed plus x cubed, that gives me 3x cubed. Negative 5x squared plus 6x squared gives me x squared. I only have one x value, so we just have 3x, nothing changes. And then negative 9 plus 11 gives me positive 2. And that's my answer. Okay, we'll leave number 2 for class. This is one of those where the first thing I would do is distribute my negative and then just combine your like terms once again. Okay, that's just review. So multiplying polynomials, I know a couple of you have already asked about this process. Yes, we are going back to distributing and FOILing. So let's just pick a couple of these to do. I'll just do 3 and 5 for the video. We'll save the other 2 for class. This is a super short lesson. So when you're multiplying polynomials, essentially you are distributing each of your terms. So the first thing I'm going to do here, it's kind of like FOILing. Multiply x to x squared, multiply x to negative 2x, multiply x to 3, and then I will do the same with my negative 5. So let's start the process. X times x squared is going to give me x cubed. X times negative 2x, negative 2x squared. X times 3 gives me positive 3x. Then I'm going to do the same with negative 5. Negative 5 times x squared gives me negative 5x squared. Negative 5 times negative 2 gives me positive 10x. And negative 5 times 3 gives me negative 15. Once you're here, this is when we're going to combine like terms. I'll highlight it just so you guys can see it, but many of you will just go through and complete this process just fine. So I've only got one x cubed value, so that gives me x cubed. I'm going to combine my x squareds. Negative 2 minus 5 gives me negative 7x squared. 3 plus 10x, 13x minus 15. And there's my final answer for that one. Okay, you want to make sure that you write your final answer in standard form, which is descending order from your exponents. Okay, I'm going to skip number 4 and go on to number 5, and you guys should be able to complete 4 and 6 on your own just fine. So whenever you have a binomial like this, where you're cubing it, you want to write it out as your 3 steps of multiplication. So I've got x minus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 2. So obviously, we can't go ahead and multiply all 3 of these at the same time. So we're going to break it into 2s and we're going to FOIL. So the first 2 I'm going to look at, I'm just going to take these first 2 and I'm going to FOIL. Remember, first outer, inner last. So x times x gives me x squared. X times negative 2, negative 2x. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives me positive 4. Okay, I'm going to simplify this, combine my x terms. So I've got x squared minus 4x plus 4. Okay, that's my first set of multiplication there. And then I'm going to multiply this by my last x minus 2. Okay, I'm going to multiply this in just like I did in example number 1. So I'm going to take x times x squared, which gives me x cubed, x times negative 4x, negative 4x squared, x times 4 gives me 4x, and then I'll do the same for negative 2. So negative 2 times x squared, negative 2x squared, negative 2 times negative 4x gives me positive 8x, and then negative 2 times positive 4 gives me negative 8. My final step here is I'm going to combine my like terms. I only have one x cubed value, so I've got x cubed. I've got negative 4x squared and negative 2x squared, so I can combine those to be negative 6x squared. 4x plus 8x gives me 12x, and then I have my one remaining constant, which is negative 8. All right, and that is my process for multiplying polynomials. You guys will probably find this to be much easier than the 5-2 lessons. Please go through and try your best to complete both number 4 and number 6 on your own, and we can talk about the process when you guys come to class. All right, hopefully the video is nice and short. Thank you guys for watching.